bringing people along, that message to me is extremely powerful. There's
Mhm.
so much written these days about engaging your workforce and empowering them. And people
Mhm.
always talk about the ways to do that. And a lot of times, like people in the startup world, it's about equity that you're giving them. Though, I have my own views on when that actually is appropriate. I don't think it's appropriate for somebody just coming on board immediately, but those are separate discussions.
Right.
When you bring people along, right? I mean, can you give us like some more examples of how you've seen engaging play really impact them? Like maybe another example of a client
Yeah.
you dealt with.
When you said startups, I'll use an example there because I think so. I have been engaged with a small startup,
Okay.
basically 4 people, right?
Oh
Four
yeah.
partners,
Sure.
and they got some money in the bank.
Hmm.
They did some business and they got some money in the bank, and that was exciting. And then they went, oh, what's next?
Right.
All right, like what do we do with it? Where do we focus? How
Yes.
much? How much? We're 4 partners. How do we align? How much commitment we're all making to
Sure.
this venture. What do we do? What do we do next?
Hmm.
And so what we did is we had a series of meetings
Hmm.
where we developed the vision, the
Okay.
mission,
Hmm.
and the values of the organization. Who are we? What do we want to be? And they had some of that because they had created a website, right? So
Sure.
we have to write something,
Yes.
but they hadn't gone through the process as a team to get really aligned.
Really cement it and formalize it, right?
Yeah, and once you have your values created, right, then it's much easier to evaluate where to invest next.
Absolutely.
So that process, was not long and hard,
Mhm.
right? It was fun and engaging, right? We always have an opener in our meetings. I in that case I used Jamboard, which is a post-it note sort of program.
Okay.
Um, for we did some ideation.
Hmm.
I used a lot of principles from design thinking in
Sure.
my work, and so yeah, by the end of that, it was a significant engagement where they felt ready to take on their own objectives and goals for 2021.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah. And they didn't need me forever. I mean, that's not the idea, right? The idea is
Sure.
to set people up in that way. Um, let's see. I also do a lot of work with nonprofit boards. That's one of
Really?
my little favorite niches, actually. I love
Okay.
nonprofit boards, and nonprofit groups in general. So sometimes it's the staff, and sometimes it's the board, and sometimes it's both.
Sure.
Because there's a team, talk about unaligned.
Mhm.
um, people join boards for all sorts of reasons,
Yep.
right? None of which are the same as the next guy.
Right.
So maybe a friend asked you, maybe you wanted it on your resume, maybe you
Mhm.
care about the topic, maybe who knows, and and generally because it's not your job being on a board, it's not your full-time job.
Right.
You don't you're putting in a smaller amount of time and investment, so you don't necessarily get to know each other. You don't, there's a lot of gap. There's a lot of space for disagreement, and boards are easily ineffective, right? They easily
Absolutely.
don't get anything done that they need to get done because they're unaligned, they're unconnected, they're disconnected, they're unengaged. They yeah. So um, I have a thing called the leadership game. It's one of my favorite tools, but I love using it specifically with boards
That's an
because
actual game, right?
it's a game.
That's a game.
It is a game with cards and dice. And
Yes.
I've made the whole thing virtual now. I
Nice.
just worked that out with the board they had the new 2021 turnover. And I did it for them a couple of years ago. So this was again.
Sure.
And yeah, and it's just a way for people. The cards prompt you to talk about your values around your personal leadership, your personal values, and the organization and the organizational values.
Sure.
And so you're talking about them. They're on the table. They're to be debated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's one of the things I enjoy about SIL as well, the group we connected in, is it's not just everybody getting together and everybody saying, hey, here's the introductions. Is you get a good chunk of time to be in these breakout rooms with everybody where you get prompted with a series of questions, as you know, and those promote some deep thinking, and you really get to know more about the person that you're interacting with and values. You actually create a relationship from that versus just knowing the name of the person and what their business is and what they do, which a lot of intro groups do that type of activity. So I agree with you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of value in understanding the motivators and the deep values of people just in general. I mean, let alone your workforce. I mean, that's your workforce you should be engaged with. You should understand them.
Yeah, but a lot of people are, I mean, I'm worried, right? I'm worried about the organizations right now that are not connecting at that level, right? They're, even companies that are getting their people, their teams on Zoom regularly to get work done doesn't mean that they're allowing for time for connection and, those kinds of questions that we get at SIL, right? You should start every meeting with some sort of open question, something fun. Actually, wait a minute, Jared, I have a free gift. I have a free gift of 75 opening questions that you should always use in starting meetings.
That is excellent.
I can give you that link.
Definitely.
I'd be happy to do that.
We'll
it's a
put
free
that
gift.
in the podcast links. That is
okay.
I was going to ask you before we wrapped up, which we're not even close to that yet. But
sorry.
I was going to ask you about what gift you would give to the people listening, and that's an excellent one right there.
Oh, there we go. Because those kinds of questions, like you said,
sure,
right? They help you build relationship and get to know people.
If you want to recommend somebody to appear on the podcast as a guest, please email us at info@opsqc.com. If you're interested in sponsoring a podcast, please reach out to us at the same email. We'd love to have your support.